Alright, today we're going to do a session on using a protractor. I appreciate from the first second that that's going to seem really tricky if you don't have a protractor at home. Many of you won't, because we've got a drawer of them at school, right? So don't worry about that. There's actually only one question that I'm going to suggest you don't do if you don't have a protractor at home. We can still get the basic ideas about measuring angles and using a protractor without even touching a protractor. So that's our plan for today. First thing we're going to think about before we even start is angles and what angles really are. I'm going to demonstrate angles using two pencils here. So I've got two blue pencils. If I put them like this, you would see that they make an L shape, a perpendicular L shape. Many of us will already know that this L shape is what we call a right angle. And many of you will know that that is 90 degrees. If we think about degrees, that is all the way around in a circle will be 360 degrees. So the right angle, which is an L shape, is going to be 360 divided by 4, so 90 degrees. We might know that, but sometimes it's quite difficult to visualize what measuring an angle might be. Except we use something that measures angles or shows angles all the time, and that's a door. Anytime we close or open a door, think of the door being closed, then think of it being opened slightly, and then opened maybe all the way so that you can walk through it. The door goes from being at 0 degrees, closed, to 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 45 if it's right in the sort of diagonal, to 60, 70, 80, 90 degrees being open. So that's what I want you to think about. We're not measuring like the distance between these 2 points. We're measuring how wide the door is, if that's not too strange an analogy. So that's really what we're talking about. Something opening and closing, I guess like a crocodile's mouth. If it's closed, it will be 0 degrees. If it opens up a little bit, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, and then it might snap shut. So if we keep that thought about angles being like opening and closing doors, we've got 4 different types of angles. We've already mentioned a right angle, which is 90 degrees. We've then got angles which are smaller than a right angle. So anything in between 1 degrees and 89 degrees, anything smaller than a right angle will fit this. These are called acute angles. We then have an angle which is anything above a right angle, so 91 degrees, or 90.1 if you want to get really precise, all the way up to 179 degrees. Now, many of you will remember, if you look at a protractor looks like this. It's got a little target there. It has a 0 on one side and 180 on one side. That's because it measures, rough protractor, 180 degrees, which is half the circle. If we remember, a circle all the way around is 360 degrees. So this angle, 91 to 179, is obtuse. It's anything from a right angle all the way up to what would be a straight line, and a straight line would be 180 degrees. Now, I've drawn a square around it because this is the one that we now need to think about. If an angle goes past the straight line, so it's going all the way around from here all the way to here, then we've got a special name for that, and that is called a reflex angle. It will be somewhere between 181 degrees and 359 degrees. So we've got right angles, acute angles, obtuse angles, or reflex angles. The final teaching point I want to make is about missing angles. So because we know these facts, because we know that a straight line is always 180 degrees and all the way around in a circle it's always 360 degrees, then if we're given one angle, we can work out what the other angle is if we don't know it by using subtraction from something that we do know. So we know that a straight line is 180 degrees. So if this part of the straight line is made up of 30 degrees, this bit must be 180 take away that 30, which should come up as 150 degrees. And that will be our 150. We can check that ourselves by saying, well, okay, if that was 150 and that is 30, 150 plus 30 equals 0.81 degrees. So we're right, we've checked it with our inverse. They're the teaching points I wanted to get across. I will put a link to the session that I want you to do from White Rose. The session is lesson 3 from week 2. It's called Step 1, Measure with a Protractor. Have a little go at that. The activity's on there. I think it's question 3 where it says you've got to measure angles. Obviously, don't bother with that. But what you could do is say whether you think it's, just by looking at it, whether it's obtuse or reflex or acute. That will be quite a useful change to make. And then you can obviously check that with your answers. Have a go. Any questions, drop me a comment on the blog and I'll hopefully be able to get back to you quickly. Thanks a lot.